myth is PEDs don't help you win fights. You know, they don't make you better.
PEDs make you much better.
But do they make you
amounts.
They make you physically
Your reaction
better,
time's
but not
faster, your recovery is better, you're stronger, your punching power is up, your punch resistance is up. PEDs help you be a much better fighter.
All right, I just want to take a quick look at Victor Conte, the founder of Balco, infamous steroid distributor, and the role I think he played in Terence Crawford's camp, why Terence Crawford brought him into camp, and the effect that had on the Errol Spence fight. Going to look at maybe potential reasons why Terence Crawford was able to dominate Errol Spence in such a way to where the fight needed to be stopped. It looked like he could have actually killed Errol in the ring. If not for the referee stopping it, he bludgeoned him, cut him up like I've never seen Errol cut up that way, and I've never seen Terence Crawford do any other fighter this way. And, you know, Terence Crawford, he brought Victor Conte into his camp in April of 22. And, you know, boxing is a very serious sport. And so we're going to take a very serious look at exactly how I believe Terence was able to dominate. You know, you won't hear this maybe from the media or anyone else. And Victor Conte will talk about why, too, in some of the videos that I'll show. So let's take a look.
Boxer Shane Mosley, how did you both begin working together?
I was contacted by his strength and conditioning coach at the time, Daryl Hudson, and we talked, and initially I probably just sent some nutritional supplements to him, and it was at a distance, and the more we talked, it became about other undetectable substances and so on, and then eventually he let me know that he and Shane would like to fly up and meet with
Since his release from prison, former Balco steroid dealer Victor Conte has returned to working with athletes and boxers in particular.
Should people be suspicious of me? Absolutely.
The scenes, outside of the spotlight, is Victor Conte. He's developed undetectable performance-enhancing drugs for world-class athletes. And he's hoping the 2000 Games will be his time to shine too.
In terms of my goal of creating the world's fastest human, I really believe that if you gave me anybody in the top 10, I'd make them number one.
He's the person who said powerful athletes are gonna want some of these supplements, and I think that I can get them in their bodies faster than the FDA can say whether or not they're safe, and also faster than the World Anti-Doping Agency can say if they are in fact illegal performance enhancers.
In the 1988 Olympics, I went to Seoul, Korea with the team. I had 25 athletes that I'd done comprehensive testing and consulting for. They brought back a total of 15 medals. It was absolutely amazing to watch and be there at the finish line.
For Conte, the victories in Seoul are a pinnacle of glory.
Okay, so from those few clips right there, you can see that Victor Conte specializes in performance-enhancing drugs that beat the VADA testing, beat all tests. That's what he specializes in. He's probably the best person in the world if you want to do that. He has so much experience dealing with all types of athletes. He was in trouble with baseball. He worked with Olympians. And, of course, you saw he worked with Shane Mosley and other boxers to this day. So why would Terence Crawford bring someone in to his camp like that? You have 38 fights under your belt, and then you bring in someone infamous, notorious, a worldwide performance enhancing drug distributor. Why? Well, you bring a guy in like that to give you performance enhancing drugs that you can pass any test with. So they'll do a lot of talk about how Bud has had the same team, but they don't mention the newest member of his team. So yeah, I mean, he still had, he had Bomac from when he was young, but they changed something up and went and got somebody who can deliver some performance enhancing drugs. He's not a strength coach as far as term as being a technician or teaching people how to lift weights, nothing like that. He simply gives performance enhancing drugs that can pass any test. And so let's look at maybe how he does that. Let's take a look.
Starts with comprehensive blood testing. So we test up to 50 different parameters, and we typically do this at the beginning, the middle, and the end of camp. And this tells us about his immune system, his hematology, his anabolic hormone levels, the markers of overtraining. So this helps to determine the correct training load to recovery interval. Any supplements that he takes come from me, and what he takes and the dosage that he takes are based upon the testing.
Let me stop you there, because in the past you did have fighters go outside of, I would say, the curriculum is the appropriate term here. Is that something that you no longer allow?
What do you mean by over-the-counter drugs?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what happened with Willie Monroe.
No. There have been a few fighters like Willie, and Andre Berto is another, that people try to link them to me, but the reality is that, for example, with both of those guys, that is true.
You do see that it looks like their last affiliation with any, and again, that's why I asked for your job title, but strength and conditioning coach is SNAC. The last shirt. That's another thing. Maybe you need to stop giving out those shirts.
You can go there and buy the stuff. Now we do give a lot of shirts away, and we do appreciate the promotion that people do give us by wearing the shirts, but it doesn't mean necessarily that if they pop positive, and as you know, the use of PEDs in boxing is rampant. And but one of the things when I talked earlier about the blood testing, there's many other markers, liver enzymes, testosterone levels, growth hormone levels, hematocrit or increased red blood cell count, where if I see in our initial screening, not the drug testing, but I also sponsor VADA testing for the fighters as well, but if I see that, then immediately I'm shaking them down. Like, this looks suspicious here. What's up with this? Can you explain this to me? So, and if there's anything.
All right, so you heard Victor Conte mention how they start off with a lot of blood testing, doing all kinds of blood work. He knows everything to look for to pass a test. See, so that's the advantage that you get when you bring in a guy like Victor Conte. He has his own testing mechanism. He knows what the testing companies are looking for. Okay? So when you bring him in, he tests you in-house to make sure that no matter what he's giving you, it's in such a way where you'll still pass any VADA testing, any type of drug testing program, you'll still pass with flying colors. Because he's testing you in-house at his SNAC gym before you go get tested or before you get hit with a random test. And another thing he also said is that PED use is rampant in boxing. And so what we're going to do now is look at how Victor Conte has been accusing Errol Spence of doping going back to 2018, 2019, and how he's also been preparing fighters to beat Errol Spence. And we're also going to look at his philosophy that if you don't use, you lose. All right, so what Victor Conte is basically doing is he's saying that Errol's juicing, so he's putting the fighters up that are going against Errol on the juice. Let's take a look.
You know, you get, if you don't have effective testing and the boxer knows that the other guy's likely doing stuff, then he's doing stuff. It becomes a use or lose mentality. So with the boxing scribes, if they're going to lose their credential, or they're not going to get access to the fighters to do the interviews, so they can't use that material to draw advertisers or viewers that end up trickling back as income for them, then they're not going to do that. So they're not asking the tough questions. Those at the very top are enabling, harboring, and promoting the use of drugs. This is the case in the Olympics. This is the case in the NFL. It's the case in Major League Baseball. It's the case in boxing. It's not just the fighters that are cheating. It's those all the way at the very top who are looking the other direction. Do I think boxing promoters know that the, let's call it the overwhelming majority of elite fighters are using drugs? I think they know. Use the intelligence that you have and target test, okay? So what is a good form of intelligence? How about that Victor Conte was, you know, giving athletes PEDs? We know this, so I'm a person that should be target tested. Any athlete that works with me, I recommend that they do 24/7, 365 testing. Do you know that of the $22 million gate that they just had here at T-Mobile, that 8% or almost $2 million went right to the Nevada Commission?
Oh, wow.
So the commission and the promoter are actually partners. So they don't want to see any positive drug tests either.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, when the state commissions do the testing, they follow the water protocol, which is far less likely to produce a positive. Sponsored Caleb Plant when he fought Canelo. I can give you many examples, okay? So yes, I've sponsored a lot of fighters, but I've been independent. So...
All right, so there you have it. Mr. Conte said right there, the cheating starts from the top. They allow the cheating, the big name fighters, they allow them to cheat. They allow guys like Victor Conte to work with the fighters. So he knows. He knows that the people above them, these TV networks, the promoters, he knows that they know that they're cheating, and he knows they're going to let him make it with the cheating. He is there to provide performance-enhancing drugs for the big name fights to help these promoters. And just like he said, the reporters, they're not going to ask any of those kind of questions because they don't want to lose their money. He knows. He just said it. And he also said that if you don't use, you lose. And he thinks Earl is doping. So why would Crawford bring him in? Is Victor Conte telling Crawford, hey, man, Earl is doping. You know guys are doping. Bring me into your camp. Give me a year. And I'll make sure you pass every test. You don't have to worry. I'm experienced. I'm the best in the game. All right, Mr. Conte also mentioned that any fighter he's working with, he wants to be tested. You know, he talked about target testing. But that makes sense from his perspective because he can beat the test. So he's sponsoring both fighters. That's why he's putting up his own money. It's almost like when he's going to the camp that he's working with, the team that he's working with, he's like, hey, I can guarantee an advantage for you. We're going to test both fighters, but we're going to beat the test because I'm going to test you in-house, and I've been in the system beating these tests going on 30, 40 years. I have great experience. Just give me time, and we will beat the test. You'll get the enhancements. We'll make sure that the other fighter's not on the enhancements because they likely can't beat the test. And it gives you the greatest chance to win. And when you think about it, this makes more sense since Crawford started working with Conte in April of 22, the negotiations with Errol Spence suddenly fell through later that year. They were supposed to fight in November. People are making it seem as if, the reason Crawford fought so well is because he's been wanting this fight for so long. he's been doubted, and, you know, he's been chomping at the bit to get to Errol Spence. But we're going to see from Crawford's own mouth that wasn't the case. And we know he dropped out of negotiations. Crawford dropped out of the blue. And I think it's because he needed more time with Victor Conte for what they were trying to do. Let's take a look.
And you missed out on that. Does it give you like an extra, like, okay, I can't miss out on this Errol fight? Like this is another huge fight.
I'm not worried about Errol at all. Like I said, you know, I got other opportunities out there that doesn't, you know, involve Errol. So, you know, not even focused on him.
It has to be on your mind. Like that's a huge fight. No, not at all.
There's a lot of huge fights out there. This is a huge fight. You know, Keith Thurman a huge fight. You know,
but Spence has the other two belts in order for you to be undisputed. I would think, you know, that's your goal too, right?
Well, you know, it's still another title out there.
Oh, well, everybody know who I want next. I want Terence Crawford next.
You're going to make that happen?
Huh?
You're going to make that happen?
Oh, definitely. That's the fight that I want. That's the fight everybody else want. Like I said, I'm going to get these straps and I'm going to go over there and take his shit too.
All right. Errol, congratulations. Terrific fight this evening.
Thank you. Man down. Straps easy. I know what time it is, baby. Terence, I'm coming for that motherfucking belt.
And so, as we can see from those last two clips and this newspaper article right here that you can read, it was Spence who was pushing for the fight and Crawford who was seeming like he was pushing for the fight, but then having other fights in his back pocket, or, you know, in some interviews saying he wants to fight and in some interviews saying he doesn't. In my opinion, he was cycling. He was getting ready. With Victor Conte, he just needed the time. All right, but that was all just the lead up to the fight and the backdrop. And Victor Conte being in the newest member in Crawford's camp. But let's look at what did happen in the fight and compare that to some things that Victor Conte has to say. Now, I want you to listen to what Victor Conte says about Manny Pacquiao in his career. And I want you to notice the similarities of the power generated from the southpaw jab from Manny Pacquiao and Terence Crawford, and the similarity in the faces of their opponents, Miguel Cotto and Errol Spence Jr. How much blood their faces look pummeled from basic, simple punches from smaller men. Listen.
You want my opinion?
Yeah.
My
That's what we're here
opinion
for.
is that Manny Pacquiao was on performance-enhancing substances his entire career. Even before he was with Ariza. That's just my opinion. And that's based on, I know a lot of people that know a lot of people that were around him as well, from the Philippines. But I just think that, you know, because of the lack of testing, and I can also tell you something else that was very highly suspicious about him, and that is that his last 3 fights all took place in Nevada, and they didn't do full VADA testing because he wouldn't do it. So they did a weaker testing through the commission. This is Adrian Broner. This is
Keith Thurman.
And it was going to be...
Ugas?
No, it was going to be Spence, and then he had the eye issue. And then it became...
Manny landed a little right hook in there and follows up by knocking him back. Great reflexes and timing where you can see these little openings that very few fighters can see. That's why he's...
Spence. Back comes Crawford with the jab. Down goes Spence. How quickly that changes.
5, 6, 7.
Now, you saw the similarities in those punches. Look at Cotto's face. Look at these images. Manny Pacquiao on the juice on that run was knocking everybody out, moving up in weight, walking through naturally bigger men. Now look at these images from Spence right here. Man, brutal. And the one thing that stood out to me watching it was the blood. Like anytime there's something fishy going on, it's just a lot of blood, especially from someone who doesn't bleed a lot or doesn't cut easy. Reminded me of that second Wilder Fury fight when Fury had those weird gloves and he had Wilder bleeding from the ear and just bleeding tremendously, so much so that Fury started to lick the blood. He was bleeding all over the place.
Something,
No,
or two as a result of the testing.
I think that would be reckless to do that. But when I look at things like punching power, and when I see Conor Benn in his previous fights, and then Conor Benn during the Chris Algieri fight, I see a different level of power there. What's that's coming from? Does that bring some suspicion? It does to me.
The myth is PDs don't help you win fights. You know, they don't make you better.
PEDs make you much better.
But do they make you? They make you physically
your reaction
better, but
time's
not
faster. Your recovery is better. You're stronger. Your punching power is up. Your punch resistance is up. PEDs help you be a much better fighter.
And this last article that you see here is about an episode coming out on Netflix that Victor Conte has. His episode is called The Hall of Shame. And it's about his dealings and giving PEDs to various athletes from all different sports, and just how infamous he was. And you just wonder, why is a guy like this allowed to participate with boxers? And why is he allowed to, help fighters to prepare? This guy should be banned as if someone was banned for being caught cheating themselves. But most importantly, why would Crawford add a guy like this to his team after 38 fights?